Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much to attend this occasion where I'm going to share with you what needs to be highlighted and what needs to be understood by the participant on the second international case solving competition on risk management this year, 2022, which emphasized on the environmental and social aspect. As we know that this case competition basically is supported by Parahyangan Catholic University and Center for Risk Management and Sustainability Indonesia. The discussion topic will cover on the environmental social risk management and environmental social governance, or in brief, we call it ESRM and ESG. Secondly, we are going to talk about why it is relevant for the organization to implement the ESRM and ESG. And lastly, we are going to talk about the embedding ESG and ESRM into the organization. Now, let us see why it is a word issue to understand what issue to become a pivotal point of this case competition this year. As we know, environmental and social issues may manifest in many ways and affect the organization operation either directly or indirectly. In particular, environmental issues may present themselves as temporary or permanent changes to the atmosphere, water, and land due to human activities, which can result in impacts that may be either reversible or irreversible. Whereas the social issues may emerge in the workplace of a client or investee operation and may also impact surrounding communities. A client or investee's performance in the areas listed below can represent the environmental and social risk to the operation. Let us see the graph below as an example. We could see then, say for example, the impact of ESRM to the client or investee operation could, basically to the financial and non-financial. Say, let us start with the upper side, the cloud, the black cloud here. It could actually disrupt or the disruption in operation, which may then create market devaluation due to the social or environmental liability to the organization, or loss of liability insurance coverage, or loss of market share due to the environmental regulation, health and safety to the worker, environmental legal issue, fine and penalties, and so forth, etc. Which then, in this case, it will have the impact, either, as I have already mentioned, either directly or indirectly to the bottom line, either short term or the longer term, not only to the bottom line, but even to the survivability of the organization. Now, let us talk about the risk management on the environmental and social. In this case, the organization, in this case, should develop an environmental and social risk categorization system to assign an environmental and social risk category to every environmental and social issues in a systematic and consistent manner. For example, we have a high risk, medium risk, and low risk. What is the high risk in this case, for example? High risk, for example, is business activities with significant adverse environmental and social impacts that are sensitive, diverse, or unprecedented. A potential impact is considered sensitive. It may be irreversible, such as a loss of major natural habitats, affect vulnerable groups or ethnic minorities, involve involuntary displacement and resettlement, or affect significant cultural heritage site. That is an example of high risk related to the ES&S. Medium risk, for example, the business activities with specific environmental and social impact that are few, but generally site-specific, largely still reversible, but readily addressed through mitigation measures and international best practices. In this case, potential adverse environmental impact on human population or environmentally important areas are less adverse than those of the high risk one. Now, under low risk are the business activities with minimal or no adverse environmental and social impact. Those are the example. Let's go the detail of the example. Here is another example from the energy supply. Say the related sector are oil and gas, the water supply providers, etc. If we look on the left-hand side, the risk and opportunity are, say for example, large quantity of water are used by this sector, mainly for cooling purpose. Second, waste from fuel-based power plant, which must be disposed of appropriately. Third, the fuel-based power plant produce significant amount of air pollutant that we have to deal with. Fourth, the contamination of property presents a risk to its value, to human health, and to the environment quality itself. And lastly, as an example, energy inefficient processes waste primary energy sources and pollute the environment. That's all in all, mostly in the production process. So if you look at the right-hand side, what are the sustainability issues here? We can see from the color mark here. The red color mark here basically refer to the high-risk issues. Orange or yellow, medium risk issues, and green, which is none here, the low risk issue. This basically, this is inherently related to the oil and gas. Second, from the sector of tourism and leisure, for example, where the related sector are transport, there are some risk and opportunity. First, tourism may contribute to environmental protection and the conservation of biodiversity. That's right. Second, the freshwater consumption may put a strain on the local supply and compete with others users. Third, untreated sewage, particularly from hotel, may contaminate coastline and other tourist attractions. This one is more on the opportunity side. Basically, appropriate waste disposal is essential for keeping the natural environment intact. And the high energy demands of tourist facilities may indicate a potential for saving. So then, certain phenomena, they have a two sides of coin, the risk and opportunity, most of the cases. And now let's see on the hand side with the color mark here. The issues that are high risk, again, red, and then medium yellow, and low is green. Energy is yellow. Emission to the water, the waste are yellow. But when we talk about the water use and the ecosystem, it is a high risk issue related to tourism and leisure. Next, we go to another example. On the low risk sector, basically quite many here. We cannot mention one by one, but here is when we are talking about the low risk. As an example, look at the left-hand side. The high energy bill may indicate potential for efficiency improvement and cost saving. Say, for example, like electric car now being used and many on the road today. The emission of polluted water now to the environment may lead to the conflict with other users and intervention by the authorities. Activities and substances that are on the IFC, International Finance Corporation exclusion list entail a risk to reputation. Emission and the large amount of waste and hazardous waste also require appropriate disposal. So if we look at on the right hand side, it's all more on the green side. Next, when we talk about the environmental and social risk issues, and then related to it is what is the environmental social risk management and environmental social governance. Then let us also see the risk management standard that we internationally use across the nation, across the region. We understand that ISO 31000 or 3100, basically is the international standard that is used in many countries. That consists of three elements, or we call it the three pillars of the architecture. We all know, it consists of the principles of risk management, framework, and process. In the principle, we have the core one, whereby emphasizing that risk management is actually to create value and to protect value. Or in a nutshell, the value creation and the protection of the value of the organization are the core. That basically the root for the 8 principles of risk management, i.e. integrated, structured and comprehensive, customized, inclusive, dynamic, best available information, human and cultural factors, and then continual improvement. And these principles basically are going to determine then what the framework and the process of risk management. Let's go to the framework first. The framework is supposed to be only one framework in one organization, with the core about leadership and commitment, which is very, very important and very critical to make it something happen. Then whereby, then basically we are going to talk about the integration of the risk management into the key business process, to talk about the design, how we're going to design this management framework, and thereby it will integrate to all the business activities of the organization, how the implementation is supposed to be, then how we conduct the evaluation to keep continuous improvement, then basically back again and the looping again and again. And then we go to the process. The process, how many process will depend how many risks that we are an organization dealing with. If we have 5 risks, then there are 5 process. If we have 10, then we have 10 process. That basically start with setting the scope, establish the context, and determine the criteria that are important, that how we are important in managing the risk. And then we go to the risk assessment that consists of the 3 sub-process, i.e. the risk identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation. And then based on the evaluation, we have to determine whether we are going to do the risk treatment or not, depending on whether the actual risk exposure higher or lower than the risk tolerance that we have already set it up. And then we do recording and reporting, not for the purpose of recording and reporting, but for the purpose that we are able then to do the monitoring and review all the time in order to keep the improvement and continuous improvement all the time. And also then, on the other side, we could also see the communication and consultation is very important. We need to talk, we need to dialogue with the key stakeholder to understand the appetite. We need also to have communication and consultation to understand whether certain risk treatment is effective or not, either certain control is effective or not. Then that's talking about the pillar or the architecture of the ISO 31000. Now, what is ESG in particular? Our partner, IFC, in this case is International Finance Corporation, a member of the World Bank Group, define ESG as a set of environmental, social, and governance factors considered by companies when managing their operation and investors when making investment in respect of the risks, impacts, and opportunities relating but not limited to E, the environmental issues, which are the potential or actual changes to the physical or natural environment. Example, glacier, pollution, biodiversity impact, carbon emission, climate change, natural resource use. The S, social issues, like potential or actual changes in the surrounding community and workers. Example, glacier, health and safety, supply chain, diversity and inclusion. And then we talk about the governance. What is the governance? The corporate governance structure and process by which companies are directed and controlled. Example, criteria board structure and diversity, ethical conduct, the risk management, disclosure and transparency. That including also the governance of key environmental and social policies and procedure. How all these 3 combined, these 3 integrated and then implemented along with the operation of the organization from the strategic up to the execution. International Financial Corporation ESG standard basically comprise the performance standard which defines client responsibilities for managing the environmental and social risk and the corporate governance methodology, which sets out an approach to evaluate and improve the corporate governance of clients. Then, what are the key relevant of ESG factors? In this case, let us see this slide talking about the key relevant ESG factors to many organizations. Let's start with environmental. Let's see climate change, carbon management, resource depletion, pollution, energy consumption, the land use, the loss of biodiversity, water consumption, waste management. I do believe at least one of it are relevant to us. There are 2, 3, perhaps, more relevant to the certain industry, but the other things are more relevant to the other industry. But at least one is quite relevant to us that to deal with. Now the social, for example, why? Job creation and working condition, equal opportunity for the employee, diversity, impacts on local communities, health and safety, grievance mechanism, human rights. Then again, at least there is one factor is related actually and relevant to our organization. If it is not many of them. Then the governance itself. We are talking about the purpose, values, culture, and of the organization, biodiversity, structure, and oversight, succession planning, the risk governance, ethics and compliance, governance of stakeholder engagement. If we look at this all, at least for either E, environmental, either S, either G, there is one that is relevant to us. Now let us look what the report talking about the environmental and social risks, which are now considered as a top risk in 2022. Let us look here. Then there is a risk that color marked by blue, green, yellow, red, and purple. Now, let us have a look on the, at least on the orange one, where basically societal, talking the social cohesion erosion, livelihood crisis, infectious disease. If we all experienced the global pandemic COVID-19 in the last 2.5 years. Look, this is a global issue. No one saying that it is not my issue. Then let's look on the environmental, climate action failure, extreme weather, human environmental damage, natural resource crisis. We live in the same planet Earth. Nobody can say it is not relevant to me. It's relevant to me, relevant to my organization. The blue one, the debt crisis, the geo-economic confrontation, it might directly or indirectly relevant to some people, some organization. But most of the ENS risk relevant to everybody here. Let us see now this particular slide, talking about creating long-term value to sustainability, which is question to every organization in the world. How are they going to create and sustain for the future? Now, let us have a look from the ES&S perspective. Environmental and social system will help organizations reducing environmental social risk and identifying environmental business opportunities at the same time. And the short and medium term, at least improving financial and non-financial performance and reducing costs and liabilities while attracting new clients and tapping new market. In the longer term, it could then enhance reputation, strengthen brand value, attract partners and financing, while then developing innovative products. All in all, this is going to increase commitment to and awareness of environmental and sustainability issues, not just actually like a stamp duty, but the DNA of the organization. How are they going to absorb it? How are they going to infuse and induce it as the key factors then for the sustainability? In embedding ESG and ESRM into organization, there are 3 key points that need to be understood. the role of board of directors, the role of management, and disclosure. In this case, we need to see from the perspective of the governance structure of the organization in countries. There is at least there are countries adopt 2 board system and another countries adopt 1 board system. 2 board system like Indonesia, Germans, Hollands, they have a separated boards between oversight board and executive board. The oversight board, they call it as the board of commissioner. The executive board, they just call it the board of directors. While the 1 board system, they know only one board. Yeah, in that board, basically it consists of executive directors and non-executive directors. The non-executive directors equivalent like the board of commissioner in the 2 board system. While then the management of 1 board system equal to the executive board of director in 2 board system. Nevertheless, disclosure actually are the accountability of the board of directors in 1 single board system, and the board of directors and board commissioner jointly accountable for the disclosure on the 2 board system. Nevertheless, I need to emphasize that the embedding ESG and ESRM in this particular case of the competition, it is not about how the nitty-gritty explanation about the board of director and role of the board of management itself, but on how effective they are in assuring the embedding of ESG and ESRM into organization. With that, of course, that not only just to make it sure embedding done smoothly in organization, but also providing disclosure to their stakeholders, so that the stakeholder know that basically what are the progress, what are the execution, how far the organization already done, and seriously and consistently in implementing and practicing ESG and ESRM in their organization. Now, the role of a director, if we could look here, just for example, here, remember, there's one board system and 2 board system. Yeah, talking about at the strategy level, how it is being embedded in the governance, what is structure to assure check and balances, integrity, transparency, stakeholders and engagement, how to make sure the stakeholder interests are being considered, the concern are considered as well, the performance of the ESG and ESRM, the disclosure and transparency as I already mentioned. So this is all actually the role of the BOD in ESG ESRM. Next. Now, talking the role of management or the executive is not just embedding, assuming it is being done, but integrating ESG into business model so that people will do it on the day-to-day activities. People not do it on the isolation. So people not seen as there's a separated things here. Say, let's see here. Yeah, on the left-hand side, we have the financial input, manufacturer material inputs, the intellectual inputs, talking also the human inputs, social relationship, natural input, and so on, etc. And then such an input basically then go into the business activities in the organization and become the output, and then become the outcomes that we use by the stakeholder, including the consumer, including the customer, either the financial again, manufacturing, and so on, and etc. And then looping back again. And therefore, if we look then now on the focus in the organization, we can see basically a risk and opportunity, mission and vision, strategy and resource allocation, outlook, evaluation, the performance. Basically, it is a cycle. All in all, continuously then making sure that the organization that within the external environment, integrated the internal environment, within which then basically ESG then integrated. Therefore, sometimes this is also called from the lens of, we call it, circular economic principle, how to keep it more things in the loop to make it sure the waste is very minimal, recycle, yes, and sustain the material and keep it in use as long as possible. Right? Integration to business process, like I said, I'm not going to go one by one because you can see from the policy, from the identification of risk and impact, management program, and so on, etc. I'm not going to go this very much detail. Go. Now, very important is, it is not just what you have done. It is not just what you are doing, but we need to measure what we do. We need to measure what we manage. This is an example. Certain organizations, they provide certain information that actually the measurement of what they manage. For example, the environmental performance, they share that to the stakeholder. The indicator, how good, how bad the trend from the 2018, 19, and 2020, for example. Say from the balance of the green credit, this is basically banking, the personal e-channel transaction, it goes up. Basically, it's a good indicator. And then what is basically they're trying to achieve for the next future, the performance. And then if we go to social performance, they measure the total number of employees, the proportion of female employee, number of outlets with the wheelchair access, the proportion of ethnic minority employees in percentage, customer satisfaction, external donation, and so forth and etc. So this is not charity. This is a part of how are we going to deal with our environmental and social governance. We have to deal with the risk associated with them, properly and measurable, and then inform to the stakeholder. Lastly, when we talk with all these things, we need to make sure the engagement with stakeholder is done effectively. So then it is very much suggested to organization to implement the effective stakeholder engagement, basically talking about how the response, the maturity, and the completeness from the start, think strategically, how are we going to engage? There's some stakeholders, strong stakeholders support to us, but perhaps there's some stakeholders against to us. So think strategically, analyze and plan, strengthen engagement capability, not just lobbying, but making it more effective from any angle that possible. Design the process, engage them, and then acting, review, and report. And then input back again, how then we do strategically correct. Analyze and plan again, strengthen again its capacity and capabilities, design any changes required to the process, and keep engagement, acting, review, and report. And back again as a cyclus of the organization sustainably. Now, as the summary, we need to say the disclose, at least we are talking about the results that we use, and then how is it going allocated and then effectively done for the certain outcome to our stakeholder. From the strategy, the governance, and the performance, all in all, basically it is put into our annual report for this disclosure and the communication purposes. I think I have already done the slide, which now may I put as a closing remark. The thematic talking about the ESG, environmental social governance, the thematic talking about the ESRM, environmental social and risk management, into the case solving competition this year, because it's very relevant. This is the agenda, not only relevant today, but also relevant to the near future and to the longer term future. It is relevant to our generation today, It is relevant to our future generation, not only just for the next decade, but perhaps the next centennial. So then it's good and appreciation to the participants all over the world for the case solving competition, not for the competition purpose itself, but also in digesting our knowledge, in digesting our networks together, then keep the network all, keep sharing the knowledge, and then was making betterment step by step, either individually or to the organization or through the network for the betterment of everybody on this planet Earth. Thank you so much, and let me appreciate again on behalf of Center for Risk Management Studies and Sustainability, where I sit as a principal, and from the Padang Catholic University, where I sit as one of the senior lecturers in that university. Greetings. Thank you so much.